Think about the people you could call right now. Not to ask for something, not to make plans, just to have a real talk. How many names come up? There was a time when friends just appeared. You didn't look for them. You didn't schedule them. You just showed up somewhere. And they were. School did that. The neighborhood did that. You saw the same people every single day. Not because you chose them, but because life kept putting you in the same room. And repetition did something on its own. It built trust without you even noticing. You didn't have to be interesting. You didn't have to be impressive. You just had to be around. That was actually enough. I happened to have some friends I never once chose deliberately. We just ended up together. Same class, same lunch table, same walk home. And somehow those became the people who knew me best. I didn't think about it back then. You don't when it's easy. And the conversations were different too. Not deep necessarily, not meaningful every time, just open. You could say something half-formed, something embarrassing, something that didn't make sense yet. And nobody judged it, because they were figuring things out too. There was no performance, no version of yourself to maintain. You were just you, unfinished, uncertain, real. And somehow that was the easiest you ever were with another person. Nobody tells you when it starts. There's no moment where someone says, okay, this is where things begin to change. It just happens, over time. You graduate, you move, you start a job. Someone else moves. Someone else starts something new. And suddenly the structure that kept you together just isn't there anymore. I have people I consider some of my closest friends who I haven't spoken to in over a year. Not because anything happened, not because we fell out. Life just filled in the space between us. And at some point, the space became the default. And the thing is, there's no villain in this story. Nobody pulled away on purpose. Nobody decided to let go. It's just that friendship without a structure holding it together needs effort to survive. And effort needs time. And time is exactly what disappears first. So the calls get shorter, the visits get rarer, the we should catch up messages start to feel like a ritual nobody fully believes in anymore. Not cold, just distant. And one day you realize you still think of them fondly. You still care, in a way you can't really explain. But somewhere along the line, you stopped really knowing each other. And neither of you said anything about it. Have you ever met someone as an adult and thought, I could really see myself being friends with this person? And then nothing really happened. Not because you didn't like them, but because liking someone isn't enough anymore. When you were younger, liking someone was the whole equation. You liked them, they liked you, and that was it. Friendship just followed. But as an adult, there are 100 things standing between liking someone and actually being close to them. Schedules that never align, energy that runs out by Thursday, a life that already feels full even when it feels empty. There's no free afternoon anymore that just appears. You have to carve it out, and carving takes intention. And intention takes something most people are already running low on. But it's not just time, it's something else too. As an adult, you come with history, with habits, with a version of yourself that's already predeformed. And letting someone new into that takes a kind of openness that gets harder to access the older you get. And then there's vulnerability, because real friendship needs it. It needs you to say something unfiltered, to admit something uncomfortable, to show a version of yourself that is unpolished. And as an adult, that feels like a lot to ask of yourself, and of someone you've only known for a few months. So connections stay pleasant, safe, surface level. Not because people are cold, not because nobody wants more, but because going deeper requires a kind of courage that daily life doesn't really train you for anymore. Here's the strange part though. It's not like you're alone. You have people around you. Colleagues, neighbors, people you see regularly, people you genuinely like. So why does it still feel like something is missing? Because there's a difference between people who are present in your life and people who actually know your life. And as an adult, most of the people around you fall into the first category. Present, friendly, familiar, but not really in. You know their name, you know what they do for work, maybe you know if they have kids, maybe you've had lunch together a few times, but you don't know what they're actually going through, and they don't know what you are either. That's the acquaintance trap, a life that looks socially full from the outside, but feels surprisingly thin from the inside. I've been at parties where I knew almost everyone in the room, and I remember driving home feeling like I hadn't really talked to anyone. Not because the conversations were bad, but because none of them went anywhere real. We stayed on the surface, and somehow that's become the norm. And the trap is subtle, because acquaintances aren't bad. They make life pleasant. They fill the day with warmth and small connection. But they can also create a kind of comfortable illusion, where you mistake activity for intimacy, where you mistake being liked for being known. And the longer you stay in that space, pleasant but shallow, the more the idea of going deeper starts to feel unusual, almost awkward, like depth itself became the exception, and small talk became the default language of adult relationships. So what do you actually miss? Is it the people? The specific faces, the specific names? Sometimes, but not always. Because if you're honest with yourself, what you miss might be something else entirely. What you miss is the version of yourself you were with those people. The one who didn't filter everything before saying it. The one who showed up unpolished. The one who could be mid-thought, mid-doubt, mid-everything, and still feel completely accepted. Because somewhere along the way you built a version of yourself that functions really well in the world. Capable, composed, reliable. A version that handles things, but that version is harder to be close to, even for you. Sometimes I think about how easy it used to be to just say things, without worrying how they would land, without managing the impression. And I'm not sure when exactly I started doing that. Editing myself before I even open my mouth. And maybe that's what real friendship actually requires now. Not more time, not more effort in the calendar sense, but a willingness to drop the composed version, to say something unfinished, to reach out without a good reason, to be a little less managed and a little more real. It won't look like it did when you were younger. It can't. That version needed the structure of school, of shared spaces, of time that hadn't yet been claimed by everything else. But maybe what's possible now is something different, slower to build, but chosen deliberately. Because the people worth being close to are still out there, and so is that version of you that doesn't need to have everything figured out before showing up. Maybe it just needs a little more permission from you.